stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Biamonte,
Present.
Mr. Fallon,
Present.
Mr. Garvin,
Here.
Mr. Nieves,
Present.
Mr. O'Byrne,
Here.
and Mr. Vaccaro is absent.
Good evening, members of the board. Today, I will present to you the data recently submitted to the New Jersey Department of Education Student Safety Data System. Under the Student Safety Data System, all incidents involving any types of suspension, whether it be in school or out of school, must be reported upon. In addition, any alleged and/or confirmed HIBs must be reported as well. During the first half reporting period of the 2021-2022 school year, which runs from September 1st through December 31st, 2021, the number of incidents reported to the Student Safety Data System for the district as a whole was 15. Disaggregated as follows. For the Doyle School, there were 0 incidents. For the intermediate school, there was 1 incident of an alleged HIB, later unfounded. And for the high school, there was 1 fight, 1 incident of damage, 5 incidents of damage to property, 8 incidents of various non-specific types, leading to some form of suspension. These types of incidents typically consist of vaping, internet violations, cell phone usage, class or detention cuts, which may have led to in-school or out-of-school suspension and thus must be reported upon under these guidelines. The total number of HIB incidents investigated within the district during the first half of this school year was 1. This incident was investigated within the 10-day required time frame. This concludes the Student Safety Data System for reporting period 1 of the 2021-2022 school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lisa. Any questions, trustees?
Thank you.
The only thing that I will ask, so one of the things that Mr. Lisa did talk about was vaping. I know that we've done a series of events hosting. I would ask that we consider having several of those throughout the year, because I just don't know if it's having the impact if we're still seeing this resident in our schools. All right, on to our superintendent report.
Good evening. My report tonight is rather brief. In this room this past weekend, we were fortunate to have performed our annual school musical. It was Annie, and it was wonderful. It was well attended. I want to thank all of our students, all of our staff members, and the many volunteers who give their time to the production each year. I think every year I walk away more and more amazed at the talent. And when I think we have a senior class that's going to graduate and we're going to lose that talent, it's remarkable how an underclassman moves forward and takes over. We're very fortunate that way. That is a shining jewel of our district, and I thank everybody involved. As far as school events go, we held our spring pep rally last week. We had some good weather at the high school, and we had all of our spring sports recognized, and the student council had a pie eating contest as well as a tug of war contest, and everybody was very excited about that, and everyone behaved magnificently. This past Saturday, we had our Big Buddies, Little Buddies Day, which is co-sponsored by the Woodridge Parent Advisory Network, and it involved an Easter egg hunt and coloring and a parachute activity. And the greatest thing about this is we invite all of our special education students. And as everyone knows, we have students that are served in our district and outside of our district. And this is an opportunity where all of our students can come together. We had a great turnout. I want to thank Mr. Sinclair and Mrs. Hill for doing such a wonderful job putting it together. Thank you to the Woodridge Parent Advisory Network, and most specifically the Taylor family, for putting together the materials for the event. Regarding our agenda this evening, we have a personnel item. We are going to regretfully accept the resignation with intent to retire from Mrs. Baumgartner after 20 years of service to our district and our high school music department, and she will be missed. We are also accepting regretfully a resignation from Mrs. Samantha DiFilippo, who is our district-wide occupational therapist. In finance, we wish to thank the Woodridge PTA for their donation of $1,500 to the Woodridge Intermediate School Student Activity Account. In board operations, we have an amendment to this year's school calendar. We have one unused emergency day remaining, and barring any catastrophe between now and May 31st, we're going to give that day back on Tuesday, May 31st, 2022, to essentially extend the Memorial Day weekend. Lastly, our spring recess, a reminder that this upcoming Thursday, April 14th, 2022, is a one-session day for all students and staff members. The Doyle and intermediate schools will dismiss at 12:28 p.m., and the high school will dismiss at 12:13 p.m. Our spring recess period will begin at the end of the day on Thursday, April 14th, 2022, and our schools will be closed for spring recess beginning on Friday, April 15th, 2022. Schools will reopen on Monday, April 25th, 2022, and I do hope that everyone enjoys a restful spring recess. Mr. Nieves, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Tony. Just a couple of things I want to piggyback off of. So the Friday before Memorial Day, I believe, is also a half a day. So it'll be half of or one session or half a day Friday before Memorial Day and returning back on that Wednesday. Yes, thank you, Mrs. Taylor, for the this weekend. I got to watch some of it, but I also wanted to thank Mark and Paula for their participation in that. And as far as Annie, it was funny. It was entertaining. It was a proud moment to be on the board and then to see how I say kids, half of them are not kids, but how well they did.
No, they were outstanding. And every year, Mr. Calaruso and Ms. Splendid, they do an outstanding job. So congratulations.
All right. Approval of the minutes. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approved minutes of the following meeting: executive and work session meetings, March 28, 2022. Mr. Fallon, Mr. O'Byrne, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Fallon,
Yes.
Mr. Garvin,
Yes.
Mr. O'Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Vaccaro is absent. Mr. Biamonte,
Yes.
Mr. Nieves.
Yes. All right. So before I go through the committee reports, which I'm sure no one will mind me reading tonight, as I always do. Not necessarily for new business, but I wasn't present at the last meeting. So one of the things that Mr. O'Byrne and I are working on from a technology perspective is our website. I think it's in severe need of upgrade. It is going to be our portal along with live streaming, which, as you could see, we're doing a little bit now. So thank you, Mr. Rutherford, for all of your help. I do want to just caveat before I go through the committee reports that what our streaming mechanism now, or media, however you want to call it, is going to be just streaming, and we're going to a policy by which if you have questions, you either need to be present or you can email those in, and we will sort through, categorize. If there is a more efficient way with, I will say, provisioning integrity, which means knowing exactly who is asking, when they're asking, and being able to scan those types of messages, we will evaluate and go back to having more of an interaction from an online perspective. But right now, we will continue to stream. We believe that's the right thing to do for providing transparency, allowing everyone to see our meetings. But the component of going back and forth from a messaging perspective, we just can't control right now. So we're going to continue to evaluate. Anything else, trustees, for new business? All right. Curriculum instruction, approval to terminate out-of-district placement, approval of field trip requests, approval of home instruction, approval of meeting translation services, approval of home-based related services, personnel, acceptance of retirement, approval of personnel appointment, approval of chaperone, approval of salary revision of administrative personnel, approval of appointment of substitute, approval of care appointment of care personnel 2122, acceptance of resignation, approval of mentor policy, approval of policies. This is the one we just spoke about. Buildings and grounds, approval of facility request. For finance, we have approval of the acceptance of donation. We have the approval of the NJ semi-corrective action plan for the 2023 school year. For board operations, we have approval of submission of the MOA between the Woodbridge Administration Association as well as the Board of Education for a one-year contract from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Affirmation of Superintendent's Report of incidents of harassment, intimidation, bullying, otherwise known as HIB, within the district. Approval to participate in ARP Homeless Children and Youth Program Consortium. Approval of amendment to District Calendar 2122, which Tony just spoke about, and approval of the purchase from Bayer Ford under ESCNJ 20/21-09. Before I open it up to hearing citizens on the resolutions only, any comments, questions, or concerns, trustees? All right, I will open it up to hearing of citizens, resolutions only. All right, hearing none, seeing none, I'm going to close the hearing of citizens. Trustees, I am looking for your support, which includes Moonaki. Can I get a first?
First.
All right, Mr. Fallon, second.
Yes.
Mr. Garvin, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Fallon,
Yes.
Mr. Garvin,
Yes, but I'm going to abstain from curriculum instruction 2, the trip to the World Trade Center. I'm sorry, yeah, the 9/11 memorial, I'm sorry. I'm actually going to attend that with my daughter. And I'm also going to abstain from board operations 1. Thank you.
Mr. O'Byrne,
Yes to everything except for policy 1. I'm opposed to that.
Mr. Vaccaro is absent. Mr. Biamonte,
Yes.
Mr. Nieves,
Yes. Trustees looking for your support, which is Woodbridge only. Can I get a first?
Yeah.
Mr. Garvin?
Yes.
Second.
Mr. Biamonte, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Fallon,
Yes.
Mr. Garvin,
Yes.
Mr. O'Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Vaccaro is absent. Mr. Biamonte,
Yes.
Mr. Nieves.
Yes. Trustees, thank you. Before I open it up to hearing of citizens, anything they'd like to talk about, do we have anything for unfinished business? I say as a negative. I will open it up to the hearing of citizens. Anything you'd like to talk about?
Good evening. Chris Kleb on 185 10th Street. I would like to know if you have any sort of update on what we discussed a few months ago, the potential tax referendum, if needed, to create more space for the schools.
So now that we have so what we're doing is typically this is an activity that happens over, so towards the end of the school year, while we start planning our grades for, the upcoming year. Once we understand what registration is going to be, especially at the younger level, it's part of our budget process, which we're in the middle of now. So there's some assumptions around, special education and other things that we need to do. So I don't have an answer, but I just want to, so you know, we continue always to work with mayor and council as well. And now that we have some numbers as far as, our total population, et cetera, which we had talked about probably a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even a couple of months ago. That's all part of what we call our planning, process. I don't have anything in addition to what I have reported the last time to Mrs. Cruz. But if you want, we could always keep this on as an agenda item, and as we make progress, no matter how small, we can report out on it to the public.
Okay.
So I don't know if you heard that in the last.
We just approved the demographic study last meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No. All right, none other. Closing the hearing of citizens. Trustees, I guess if nothing else for communications? What? Sure. Just a request to announce that our next meeting is going to be on the 25th, which is as soon as we come back from break, so that'll be that Monday. I know that some of us, might not be here, but we will definitely have our board meeting as scheduled. All right, so motion to adjourn?
First.
Mr. Garvin, Mr.
Yep.
Fallon, all in favor?
Yep.
All opposed? Close tonight's meeting. Thank you, everybody.